Welcome everyone. Welcome to UKIYN EcoPeace Cafe session. So today we are having a session on protecting water resources, a way to conserve ecosystem. Before diving deeper into our topic, I will explain what UKIYN EcoPeace Cafe is. So it's an online education program that gives hope and calls for action through workshops, dialogues, and action-oriented projects. So it's a series of sessions we are having, and we started our journey in July by hosting orientation call and one training session for facilitation. And then we had 5 sessions in August, and I know Shan was there, and we had sessions on climate change, sustainable architecture, and Earth Charter. So our program is focusing more on Earth Charter principles, and we designed according to the Earth Charter document. It's an ethical guideline for sustainable development. And then we had a session on innovative ways for waste management, and then we had one session on social justice. We talk about gender equality. And this stage in September, we are having 2 sessions. And the first one was on let's counter hate speech. And now we had this session. And this is about protecting water, a way to conserve ecosystem. And so I am the facilitator of this session, and I'm Greshma. I'm joining you from India, and I'm a peace builder. Actually, having 15 years of experience, I started this journey as a teenager, and I have experience in working for various interfaith organizations, both national and international. And I host interfaith dialogues with religious and like with people from diverse religious and cultural backgrounds. And so let's start our session, and let's dive deeper into protecting water resources. And so today we have a short ice breaking session, and then we will have a conversation on water ecosystem, and then we will have a small look at water action decade, and then we discuss about the role of faith leaders in protecting water resources, and then we have a breakout session, and that will be for 20 minutes. So you will have enough time to have a good discussion in your breakout session. And then we will have a short reflection. And after that, we will have a session on 30 minutes. We will be discussing on various questions, and we'll come up with more um, more idea on how to take action. So that's our structure for today. When we talk about freshwater ecosystems such as wetlands, rivers, mangroves, and aquifers are a critical part of the global water cycle, and like supplying, purifying, and protecting freshwater resources. So, so we are going to discuss about water bodies and ecosystem. So we like when we are talking about water resources for this presentation, we are mostly looking at freshwater ecosystem and freshwater resources. So as we all know that wetlands and rivers are the um, main components which are really helping us to protect our water resources, and they are like really interlinked, and they are supplying and purifying and protecting our freshwater resources. So, so when we start this session, I would like to hear from you one of your memories with water bodies. So, if I am talking from my own childhood experience, like when I see water, like when I see rivers, I was I was living near to a river, and I was so fascinated and so loving with rivers. But these days I'm really afraid, like when we have rain, like we're really afraid, okay, whether there might be a chance of flooding. And uh, like when I'm a child, when I was a child, I was so eager to see rain and rivers. But these days when I see rain, it's little bit like um, worrying or fears are there. So I would like to listen from you whether do you have any memories regarding water bodies. So maybe we can start from our childhood days. So anyone feel like if you have a story about water bodies, please feel free to share.
Okay, no problem. I can go ahead there. Thank you. Yes, I have, of course, beautiful memories in my childhood and uh, difficult memories as well in my childhood about water. Good memories is when we used to play in the river as children. You know, when it's raining, we go swimming in the river because there is plenty of water and it was very enjoyable. But we used also to have dry spells during dry seasons where we had to wake up very early in the morning to go to the spring so that we can get water for our family consumption. And also where we went to school, we used also to carry water to the school because there was challenge of water during the dry season. And because I was naughty during my childhood, so one time I carried a container without water because I felt lazy to take the water to school. And I remember my teacher beat me. I could not forget that till now because I failed to carry the water. So yeah, water is a good memory for me. Um, Especially when we used to go to swim in the river, to bath in the river, and it was a place where we could really meet as a community along the river. So those memories still remain. Of course, I am far away from my childhood environment, but I still remember those memories. And now I am in the Philippines. I see the rivers because I'm close to Manila. We are just 1 hour out of Manila in Cavite province outside Manila. And the waters are terribly polluted. When you pass through the rivers, you really feel the smell of the water, and you even don't feel like even touching the water or even doing any activity with those waters because they are really polluted. So that's what I have to talk about water. Thank you.
Thanks, Father, for sharing your childhood memories. And
Yes.
also, I know like it's little bit hard when you share your memories when you are far, really far away from your home country. So thanks
Yes.
for sharing that with
Thank you.
us.
Yes.
And Eda, do you like to share?
My one is a little bit funny as well. So my childhood, I don't know, because I was close to ocean. Whenever I think of water, well, not only water, but like ocean, I remember my childhood. So, or whenever I think of my childhood, I remember the ocean. So I was lucky enough to have a camping area where my parents would take me every year. But then it's gonna sound really dramatic, but nowadays when I go to this, close to the sea or the ocean, I feel so sad when I see all the plastic or different, waste rubbish which the ocean brings out. And it's so sad that there is awareness, there are so many campaigns happening around plastic, but yet you see all the waste and rubbish outside of the ocean. And we do always try to clean the ocean. There's like some youth groups there. So that's what I remember. My childhood times were more beautiful. We didn't even know what cleaning the ocean was. As I got older, it became a thing. Hopefully, as I get older in the future, it will disappear to be a problem. That's my input. Thank you.
I really have a difficult childhood memory about water. I grew up in a place where we don't know tap water. We don't know how to open a tap and fetch water from it. We go to a nearby stream. When I say nearby, the stream was far, and you have to go down some hills and climb before you get there. And we did not know how jerry cans with cover look like. So all the containers we use in fetching water were open containers. So during the rainy season, it was really, really hard to bring water home because the place will be so slippery. And if you fall, everything the water will just pour and you have to go back and start all over. And that's a stream where many people use, those that have tap water. When the water cuts, that's where they come. So sometimes the place can be very, very busy. That's the only source of water I knew when I was in childhood. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
So that's the only source of water I knew when I was in childhood. So we have to go down the stream. There's a place they have canalized, a small place so that water will be coming out. Water comes out from the rock. That's where we fetch. We didn't know something like jerry cans that has cover. So it's only a basin or a bucket, open things. And sometimes you may climb, you may carry and climb and climb and climb, get very close to the house. You will slide and fall, especially during rainy season, and then you have to go start. Oh, it was really a difficult one. And as for rainwater, for us, we don't know when it is raining. If we were playing our game when the rain comes, we just continue playing until we finish the game. And then everyone goes and have a bath. So for me, water has really been, my childhood story about water has really, really been hard and a difficult one. We have to get up at 5 a.m. to go fetch water because that's the water you give for your parents to cook food. That's what people will bath with in the morning. You don't even have enough containers to store water for 2-3 days. So every day, sometimes we go twice, sometimes it's just once. You go in the morning, you put fetch enough. If there are many children in the house, you may just go once in the morning or twice. You bring it up and keep it. You dry clean the house, wash plates with it. We don't know flushing toilets, so then they'll have to cook food with it. So water was really, really difficult. And today I still work in a rural community where water is hard. We have tap water, but the cut of that water is very frequent. Some days people can stay 3 days, 4 days, even 5 days, the water is not running. You now have to go and look for water from people that have boreholes all over the place. So water is really difficult in our own setting, and I grew up with this. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think this is the first time I'm sharing this story anywhere about my childhood water life. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Navabufu. Thanks for sharing that difficult story. So when we shared about water and childhood memories, we like others were sharing the funny moments and the beautiful memories. So thanks, Navabufu, for bringing us a different perspective of like how challenging to get the water. And for some people it's like we have like plenty of water and we don't know like how to sustainably manage the water resources, and at some point we don't have enough water and we are like people are really struggling to get water and survive each day. So so like when I ask you the childhood memories, I also expecting like a beautiful memories and funny memories. So so from that I also wanted to share that the things are changing with the time being. Like we are seeing like a very difficult time, like sometimes we are having drought, sometimes we are having floods, and also we are seeing like very hard times, like our freshwater ecosystem is really affected and our wetlands are really affected. Sometimes the water is really drying up and we don't get enough water resources for meeting our um, survival. So Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, was mentioning that it's humanity's lifeblood. Water is humanity's lifeblood. So yes, of course, without water, we can't imagine any forms of life forms. So we really need to protect our ecosystem, like freshwater ecosystem, as well as all the forms of water resources. So so for that, United Nations decided, like from 2018 to 2028, they are implementing water action decade, so which aims to protect water and also focusing on the sustainable management of water, and water action decade to run from 2018 to 28. So we still have time, and with the aim of addressing global water challenges and achieving sustainable development goal number 6, which is focused on ensuring the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. So this action started in 2018, and when it comes up, and after that they are meeting on they are holding UN water conferences, and this year that was held on March 22 as part of the World Water Day. So they are having like lots of discussions are going on at the UN, and we know like there are like lots of papers are coming up, lots of discussions are happening, and at the same time we need to act, and sometimes the action level is really missing. And also why EcoPeace Cafe, UKIYN EcoPeace Cafe is hosting this kind of sessions or dialogue session is to really reflect on what is really having like as documents or like doctrines. For example, we have Earth Charter, which comes up in 2000, which talks about all the ecological integration and how to respect community of life. So we have all the materials. So we need time, and we need our like all our efforts to come into action. Then only we can protect the water resources. So we need to take an individual level of action. So so let's explore like how can we take that actions, and how can we collaborate with the local NGO or national organizations to implement or like implement some kind of initiatives or taking actions for protecting our water resources. So I will be sharing these presentations with you all, so you can see all the sources which cited there, and please have a read, which is like a 30-page document. So take some time to read the water action decade, and also about the UN water conference which happened in 2023. In that there were like lots of discussion happened during the plenary, and there was also like I think there were like 5 dialogues happened in between the sessions. So they were all discussing about the conditions of each countries. And as Nava before said, like she was mentioning her childhood was more difficult because of the lack of water, and now it's more like global, like we all having such kind of issues because of the climate change and also because of the lack of management. So so this conference were discussing and also exploring like what happened after 2018, like after declaring the world action like water action decade. So the meeting was to assess the progress made in the implementation of international decade objective, and also reaffirming the internationally agreed water related goals and targets, including those contained in the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. It also aimed to identify obstacles, opportunities, and innovative ways to support this implementation and foster an exchange of views. And I was also following the water conference like very curiously, because I'm also like very concerned about not just freshwater ecosystem but also about the marine ecosystem. So this all like really affected due to the climate change also, and also the human activities, like how we deal things and how we create like more pollutions, and um, like also how we created distractions to the wetlands and other mangroves. So we need to understand like how our actions impact the nature and how it's adversely affect the nature. So these conferences were really reflecting on that, and the major concerns that raised during this conference was the lack of funding as one of the biggest challenges to achieving the water related goals and targets of water action deed an action decade. And also they were discussing about the impact of climate change and situation of small island developing states and landlocked countries. And if you are a person who is following the international like meeting, like for example COP27 or COP26, we are always seeing the leaders of small island developing states are coming up and sharing about how hard they are living and what are the effects they are facing. So this where the things happened in the water conference. And so here is a question for you. How does climate change impact water resources? So the floor is open for you to share like what you think and how it really affected in your places.
I come from northern Germany. We used to be a very, very wet area, mostly marshes. So we started to build channels to get the water off, because otherwise everything got flooded. And now, due to climate change, we have much less rain during summer, and suddenly we lack water. So we need to close all the channels we dug 300 years ago to contain the water that is flowing off. And we have droughts and a lack of water.
Thanks for sharing, Ono. And yeah, it's a global thing now. Like when I'm talking about the climate change that happened in my place, is mostly like floods and also sea rise is there. So so like especially whenever floods happen, we are seeing the plastics which the rivers are bringing us back to us. Like it's like lots of plastics were there in like, and it's like a very hard to clean all the places after the floods. But while in our locality, what they did was like they were carrying all the plastic and they put back to the rivers also. So there were like a kind of mismanagement happened there, and we need to address such situations also, like how to protect our resources, like especially water resources, to like protect as it is, like especially the fresh water, like because the people are really depends on fresh water. If we don't have fresh water, it really affects our health system, and it affects humanity and all forms of all life forms. So we really need to find solutions, and we also encourage others to take the action on protecting, and also like educating them and creating more awareness on how to protect these resources, and also give them more idea about what climate change is and how this is going to affect us. And we have to find the like it's maybe difficult to find the solution, but we have to adapt and mitigate the situation. So we really need to come up with actions. So climate change and water resources, this also that also what shared on the water conference this year, and the adverse impact of climate change and water resource, the adverse impact of climate change on the water cycle, which negatively affected groundwater quantity and the volume of water flowing to rivers and aquifers, and the provision of water services, and the adverse effect of climate change on water quantity and quality, pollution and salt intrusion due to sea level where issues rise, and the contribution of natural disasters to water scarcity and contamination, especially in small island developing states and landlocked countries. These were the very few statements that were come up during the water conference this year, which happened in New York. And when we talk about mitigation and freshwater ecosystem mitigate the effects of floods and droughts, as we are in this group, we are keep on saying about floods and droughts. So to control that, we really need to have coastal mangroves and riverbank vegetation projects, which needs to protect the land from, which protects the land from erosion and other kind of issues, and wetlands and glaciers where regulate water flows, and which helps also aquifers can act as a storage buffer during dry spells. So these were the like natural solutions, and also many initiatives are happening regarding like the planting of more bamboo trees near the rivers and also near the oceans to control the rise of water. So we can discuss such solutions later this presentation. And so I want to show this video to you all. It's algal bloom, which happened in the largest freshwater in UK. So this is the largest freshwater for Ireland and UK, like 40% of people depending on this freshwater, but this happened very recently. So yeah, so I was like, when I was looking at more regional context, and I was specifically looking at UK, and I was found this video, and also environmentalists were holding like a wake, like a they were saying that this largest freshwater died. So they were doing some kind of ceremony, like a funeral service kind of. So they were holding that. So you can go and check the news. So which is the largest freshwater lake in the UK and Ireland, which is critical to the country as it supplies half of Belfast drinking water and 40% of Northern Ireland. Over the summer, noxious blooms of algae covered large part of the loch, and thought to be largely linked to excess nutrients in the water. So protesters, who were mostly wearing black, accompanied a coffin along the shore and placed a wreath with the name of the lodge on the top. So this happened in the UK, and we know that there are like many rivers and many freshwater lakes having the same issues everywhere. So yeah, we all are a cause for such kind of issues, knowingly or unknowingly. So we have to be more aware, and like we have to learn about such things. And so here I would like to share the role of faith actors. Yeah, I'm concerned about the time also. So here is an example about Jordan, and this is a project done by GIZ, which is a German affiliated organization. So they were doing a project for the religious leaders in Germany, and Germany is religious leaders in Jordan, and there is an intake of more than 6 lakh registered refugees from neighboring Syria, and that really increased the need of water consumption and increased the water consumption in the country and greater pressure on the country's already scarce resources. So this project was trying to bring a new kind of culture through religious leaders. So let's see, like what are the steps they were taking. So they trained imams and religious scholars, and they were considered them as water ambassadors and teaching believers in their community on how to use water economically and why this is important. And also they prepared a teaching material which has developed for Christian leaders, and also they prepared religious-based teaching materials are developed for schools and universities, and then included in religious education to raise awareness of the issues of water scarcity. So this is a good example of how the faith actors take steps to conserve water. So when we are saying these community leaders or religious leaders as water ambassadors, we are giving some responsibility to them, and they are acting and also educating the people on how to act for protecting these resources and how to protect our nature. So there are lots of examples like this happened even in like in UK also. So yeah, so the project partners are equipping selected mosques in northern and central Jordan with a rainwater collection and grey water recycling system. This water saving Blue Mosque will show people the ways of saving water that they can also put into practice into their own homes. So yeah, this is one action which can be adopted. And also Religion for Peace is also working with lots of religious organizations. So this is something we can adopt and help to promote these kinds of ideas. So now it's a time for breakout session. So we are going to discuss some questions. So this question is, how can we raise awareness among the younger generation on protecting water resources?
So I wanted to say that I know the reality is painful, but perhaps in a fun way, explaining to the coming generation the bad effects of using the water for without reason, like massive amount of water, let's say, and showing them how the impact of some of the human behavior would affect it negatively, like perhaps brushing your teeth. While you are brushing your teeth, having the water running, or I don't know, using less water to wash more clothes, perhaps this type of things, just to showcase the behavioral change in them. I know it's not the only solution, but if you know, every individual does their own part, it's kind of like using less and less plastic, then there is not much of waste plastic there to recycle. We know how bad the side effects of recycling is now. So recycling is not the only solution. So perhaps showing, you know, that is my answer, I think. Showing the bad side effects of using excess water would make them realize how important it is to use less water.
Yeah.
Because they do have such a big empathy. I think adults lack of empathy or understanding because we are stubborn a little bit, but children are different. So I'm talking about coming generation. So children that are raising now.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Eda, for sharing that. And
Yes.
yeah, any other thoughts? Yes.
Yes,
Father.
can I make a contribution? I think the younger generation, they can really learn better by seeing. If we can really expose the young people to see the reality of the problems that the society is facing because of lack of water, I think that can push them to action, because for them, without seeing the challenge, they cannot really act. So what needs to be done is maybe to expose the young people to the challenge of water. Especially those younger generation in cities where there is running water. Sometimes they take it for granted. They even don't know where the water is coming from. And in the same environment, there are people who are living without running water. Let's take, for example, in the slums, maybe just to have like field trips with young people to visit those people who are in difficult environments, like those in the slums. And this can really resuscitate in them the compassion that is needed. Because once they get to be compassionate, to realize that really there are people who are suffering in the world because there is a challenge of water, then they will be able to act. Otherwise, if young people are just told to conserve water, they cannot understand. So I think there has to be action in terms of exposing them to the challenge of water.
Thanks, Father. Thanks for sharing that. And from the context of Philippines, like, is there any initiatives are happening? Or maybe from the Catholic Church also, like, is there any initiative?
I don't know very well, because I'm not in a pastoral context. I'm in a seminary. I haven't seen so much. Of course, people talk about the environment, people talk about water, but when you see the reality, there is no action. There is littering of the environment with plastic materials. The disposal of wastes is not proper. The sewage system is really very bad here in the Philippines, because the sewage system is going to the rivers.
Yeah.
And that is a big challenge. Yes.
Yeah, it's happening here also. Like, the sewage is like, we put all the waste to the rivers, and everyone knows like what are the bad or like what are the adverse effects of it, but still we are doing that. So we need to change that culture, and we need to create that awareness among our younger generation, and we need to educate them. At the same time, we need to engage them in action, like not just inspire but engage them. So how can we do that? So that's
let me add another point, that the younger generation also is lacking good example from the older generation. Because in schools, children are taught about the environment, how to take care of the environment. But when they come home, there is no follow-up in terms of showing good example on how to protect the environment. So maybe the education for young people should go hand in hand with the education of older generation, so that the young people can get good example on how to protect the environment, and more so the water.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really a good idea.
So
like
I agree,
creating.
and I like the idea. Greshma, there are also some comments on the chat.
Yeah. Uno was sharing, most of the young people I know are fully aware of the importance of water, but they have problem is with finding solutions and incorporating those solutions in their daily routine. And Rudina shared, maybe also let them have a conversation with their parents and grandparents to find out that before people didn't need bottled water, drinkable water was available in water fountains, and have them compare what the reason for this change are and list them. Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, this is what EcoPeace actually trying to do, like having conversation with your family members and finding out the solutions. So like when like as I mentioned earlier, like I'm the founder of EcoPeace Teen Cafe. So some of our sessions are really having the children. So like we are having the sessions with the children and teenagers. So we ask them to go out and or have a chat with your neighbors and also have a chat with your friends and family and find out the solutions. So that's a better way, and many of the teenagers did that, and they were learned from indigenous communities also. So I also encourage this side, like how to use the indigenous knowledge to protect water resources. So so if I am talking from Indian context, like we have like lots of indigenous communities, like there are like lots of like indigenous communities from north to south and east to west. So I always mentioned that like we really need to learn from them. The indigenous communities have the solution to overcome these challenges. And recently, during the UN General Assembly, I heard one of the youth activists. She's from the I forgot her name, but she was also mentioned that we have the solutions. So please come to us, and we have the solutions, and learn from us for this climate change issue. So we really need to integrate that indigenous knowledge also. But still the question is like, how can we do that? And there is a funding challenge, and also there is a issue of like how to contact them and how to reach out to them and how to bring them to the main space. So these are the some of the concerns. So thank you, Rudina, and thanks, Uno, for sharing that. Yes, it's hard to find out like we know the solutions and we know the issues, but the issue is like how to act and how to empower and how to engage these young people. So this is a questions we really need to ask ourselves, and we really need to ask the children also, like how can you come up with solutions and how can you take actions. This question is like more on policies, like what policies or regulations have been effective in promoting water conservation at local, regional, or national levels. So this is a question to you. So please share like what policies that you really want to see, like, or what regulations you really wanted to see at your local, regional, or national level. So think like a policy maker and come up with solutions. We know there are like issues, there are the solutions, but how can we make it as a policy? And maybe we can continue the discussion of like how to reach out to young people. So maybe we can create a policy out there, like how to engage through a policy, how to engage young people through a policy. Maybe
Shares a big good point. She says raising the water bill.
Raising the water bill. Okay. Yeah, then you will see like how people react to it.
But isn't it correct? Like whenever there are fines or I don't know, strict rules, which involves money, then people learn and they, change their behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Unless people see a direct consequence, it's hard to redirect. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is raising the water bills is a challenge, because water is an essential commodity, and it is a human right for all people. We should not deprive people of water. Yes, just for its conservation, because really without water there is no life. So even government should really try to make sure that the water is available at an affordable rate for everybody. But just trying to put regulations that can really work, because not regulations that will really make the lives of people to be hard, especially when it concerns things about human rights, because water is a right for every person in the world. Yeah. So that is my my small critique about the point of raising the water bills.
Yeah, so
Because, yeah. Sorry.
yeah, it's always welcome, like, because we are discussing about policies, so we
Yes.
can have the discussions both like pros and cons. And
Yes.
also I see like Uno also sharing that raising the water bill cause a black market for water. We can already see that in Jordan. So yeah, so critics will go on the same color. So yeah. Rubina, instead of having a half an hour long shower, people can decrease it to 15 minutes, thus saving water and money. Water and money. Okay. Okay. Any comments? So it's like a policy. So do you think it can become as a policy? So we are discussing about creating policies or regulations, and yeah, come up with more ideas, and I'm waiting to write. Any other thoughts? Is there any possibility of thinking about yeah, in the chat there are some rather easy technical solution. In Germany, we greatly reduce water consumption by installing shower heads that make the water mix with air to have more volume, and thus reducing the amount needed for showering. Oh, that's a nice idea. Yeah, this also comes. Yeah, any other thoughts?
Yeah. Regulations on how to protect the pollution of water. I think that is the major challenge that many countries face, is the pollution of the water. And this can really be controlled or capped through the implementation or creation of policies and implementation of policies that can really work, because protecting the water through having laws that work can really help a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, there is scarcity of water, but most of the water that the fresh water that is supposed to be for our consumption is really polluted. This becomes even the biggest problem of water.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, like in India, like we have like lots of rivers in India, and most of them are like really polluted, and it's really toxic, some like due to the chemical waste. So at the same time, there are like lots of national policies are there, and also in India we are giving living in a status to water. So water considered as a living entity. So water also has like rivers also have like rights. So rights to protect, and like it's also treating as a living entity and having all the rights. So this is something happening in India, but I don't know like whether it's whether water considered as a living entity in any other place. So yeah, that's one thing which we can consider, like by giving some kind of rights, like rights for water. So then we can protect water in a more like more constructive way. And like if you put any kind of waste to the rivers, we can have the like we can take actions against them and legally, so that can also help to avoid such situations. So yeah, any other thoughts?
Okay. Another thought is we also need policies that protect the water sources. Yes, because many of the water sources, for example, are deforested because the trees are the ones that really conserve the water and release the water. So the water sources really need to be protected and protected from deforestation, protected from pollution, and also because here we are talking about young people. Young people can be very innovative and also very participative in terms of protecting the water sources. We take, for example, young people can take initiatives of planting trees in water sources. But you need regulations because some of the water sources are already like private properties, you know. So it becomes a private property, then it's no longer a common good, and people do not have like the right to encroach into a private property.
Yeah.
So the policies need to be put around the water sources so that they are protected, and then it is the responsibility of everyone to make sure that the water sources are taken care of, and it is the common responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Uno also sharing that there are also more technical projects like Hamburg water cycle. This is an attempt to build a water delivery system that reuses delivered water as often possible, thus reducing the needed water by about 30%. I could only find sources in German, so yeah, it's okay. But this is really nice example, like Hamburg water cycle. So thank you for sharing that.
There are so many things happening currently on our globe. Like there's either no water at all, so there's drought, or there is too much water, which causes floodings and everything. So natural disasters will be happening because we know that rising, heat and everything causes abnormality. Unfortunately, we are there, we are living it, we are going to be experiencing it, perhaps continuously, not only summertime, but every season now. We need to accept that. We need to perhaps, I'm saying us, we, but perhaps scientists, leaders, political leaders, but also like faith leaders, all the leaders, and also people who are in technology, they need to put forward some sort of solutions which would help us, rather than living disasters, changing it into benefits for us. Perhaps we can reserve that water somehow from the floodings. Instead of causing disasters to humanity, it can be our water, like futuristic water resource. My one is just an idea, like if willing is going to be there, humanity can do everything. I'm just looking backwards. We were living in pandemic. Now we do have so many different vaccines for COVID. So if we really put thoughts in it, we do find solutions.
Yeah, please share your thought on how can we work together as a community to protect our water resources. Do you have any new ideas that are coming up, like after having this discussion? Or or you already working with some other projects, please share with us, like please share that project with us. Or if you have an idea but you really don't know like how to start, or you need support, please let us know. Maybe we can have a discussion around that.
Might not answer your question directly, but I just want to say that, you know, there are different ways that we implement the policies concerning the environment, water, and maybe natural resources. But the challenge is when we do not involve community or different stakeholders about these issues. So working together is really about involving all stakeholders, involving communities that have a direct participation in the use of the resource, for example, water resource. Because most of maybe the enforcement of the laws and implementation of those laws can sometimes, you know, bring challenge in terms of working together. Because if the law is just enforced, you know, the law is always like trying to find faults. But here, to see how can we really like involve other people so that we can work together, and it can be even an enjoyable process. Everybody can be happy to participate, to bring his or her contribution. So I think this is really a challenge for all of us in the society, just to see that everybody can contribute, and how we can encourage each other to contribute towards finding a solution. Yeah.
So yes, like when we discuss like how can we work together as a community to protect water resources, we really need to think like how can we mobilize people for a common goal, and also like how can we communicate. For example, like further, it may be easy to work with the seminarians and engage them in activities. So I hope you already have some kind of activities which really like creating impacts on the nature. So yeah, that kind of, and also maybe when you think when you plan for some kind of initiative, you can also invite the community members to work together with the seminarians, so that also help to engage and also having kind of faith dialogue. So
yes,
helps to promote peace. So I'm also a peace builder, that's why I always come back to peace. So yeah, that kind of activities can be taken. And also we as an organization and also UKIYN EcoPeace Cafe, we are planning to work on action toolkit by suggesting the kind of actions what we can implement after attending this session. So we are preparing that. So we can add these ideas in the action toolkit and also provide it to you for your organizations and institutions. So yeah. And yeah, I'm also seeing the chat and the messages from Rudina. She's saying that incorporating water conservation as part of the curriculum in geography classes and also religious communities. In my case, in Islam, water conservation is a continually topic of remembrance as part of the faith. Yeah, thanks, Rudina, for sharing that. So we are coming back to the faith and also talking about the role of faith and how can we engage or how can we use the faith element in conserving nature, because all our faith are telling us to protect nature, and in every page maybe we can see the reference of nature in all the holy scriptures. So bringing that element also to do action part. So yeah, maybe there is like a question of sharing example of successful initiatives in your communities. So already Uno shared his examples, like the examples from Germany. So is there any other examples from your communities that you would like to share with us?
So many different initiatives for, you know, what, like awareness of water consumption. Perhaps I could share something from the museum that I work for. So the museum, as well as the London Aquarium, does the same thing. So they where I work is called Horniman Museum and Gardens. There's a aquarium in there too, is in southeast of London, while central London has the London Aquarium. So both of them use the water from the aquarium, you know, the fish tanks that they have, which needs cleaning. So that bad water which they've used, it doesn't go on waste. They do have a mechanism which takes that water, filters it 3 times, and it's not that clean enough so it's drinkable, but it does go to the back to the park that they have. So they are watering all the trees with that water. So they do have that sort of kind of restoration of water, which goes back to the trees, as well as the waste from the trees and also from the cafe of both of them, London Aquarium, but also the museum that I work for. They do take it and they do, well, I guess it's called filtering. So they maintain that waste and it goes again back to the gardens that they have or the trees as a as a revitalizer, is it called? You know, the food, plant food. They use it as plant food. So perhaps we need more and more this type of things. I know that some houses around the world, they do have similar sort of filter mechanism at their homes, and they do clean rainwater, and they do use that rainwater for showering or for, you know, the washing machine, etc.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Eda, for sharing that. When you shared that story, I also remember one hotel I stayed during my Bali visit. So in that hotel, it's very sustainable. Like there is no waste. So they reuse all the water. Like after bath, it goes out to their other like agriculture field. So they are making their own food material, like rice and everything. So they use all the materials, like they don't produce any kind of waste. They recycle and reuse and all the forms. So there are lots of such kind of initiatives happening everywhere. So yeah. I see Uno shared on the chat, build a worldwide community of civil engineers who build this stuff and local community who test this stuff. Okay. This is an answer to Navabufo's question. And wastewater can be valuable, the hydroponic system that provides clean water for Kenyans. Yes, he shared one link. So yeah, like a hydroponic system is really liking that, like getting more attacked from people. And here also there is one organization which use this system, and that they are mostly working for the marine conservation and marine ecosystem. So in my part, I'm really close to the coastal area, and we are having this issue of wild fishing. So they are trying to conserve those fishes by equipping this coastal community in growing like freshwater fishes, and they are using this kind of like method to conserve the ecosystem. So yeah, so I really recommend you to explore more such initiatives which are happening around the world. And as I shared earlier, like share your ideas or water conservation projects you are currently involved in. And if you don't have any ideas right now, please think about it and also share it with us, and we can add that on our action toolkit, and also helping you to implement those ideas into practice. So there are one more question. How can business, non-profits, government and individuals can collaborate to promote water conservation effectively? So any thoughts on that? Like we already mentioned, like how can we how can we cooperate with business and non-profits and individuals to promote water conservation effectively? So if you have any new ideas, please share with us, and especially you can also collaborate with faith leaders that we are really recommend, and we really do that. As the example we shared about the Jordan, that's a good example. We can adopt that to churches, mosque, and maybe we can work on a green protocol on, like when you are in the church, like how to conserve water, and also faith leaders can educate the community members on how to protect water resources, and also collaborate with non-profits and volunteer for them, spend some time with them, and if there is any cleanup initiatives, go and join with the non-profits. So that's a one method of protecting water resources. And there are initiatives which construct wetlands to protect the water. So find out what initiatives are happening in your communities, in your localities, and join them, and also invite if there is any potential collaborations, you can do that also. So what is the most critical resource issue of our lifetime and our children's lifetime? The health of our waters is the principal measure of how we live on the land. Quote by Luna Leopold. So yes, as I started, the water is a lifeline, lifeblood. So we need to protect, and we need to protect all the water resources for a better tomorrow and for our life homes. So thank you so much for taking this time.